We have a couple of items, a 1700 candlestick, brass candlestick, a seamed brass candlestick, and a late 1600s wick trimmer in a tray. We'll concentrate on the candlestick first. This was made about 1700. I'll get down here and see if I can concentrate on, get a, there's better. As you can see, there's a little hole there, and that's for taking a pick and putting the pick inside that hole to get the candle out, the stub of the candle. And back then, candles were not made out of wax, they were made out of tallow or animal fat. So it was kind of hard to get out. So as you could see, this is a little narrower here than up here, which helped to get it out. And then you stuck a pick in here, and you got the candle out. And what I mean by seamed, I'm not sure if you could see the seam. Very difficult to see seams. But there's a seam that would run, you know, down here. I'm not sure if I can, how close I can get, even in this light here. You can kind of see a little bit of a seam there. And a little more of it there. These were sold by the weight. At one time they were solid, they were sold by weight. So somebody got the bright idea of, well, let's just have a hollow one. So they couldn't make a single mold, so they did a double mold, put them together, and then they had to, of course, braze the ends. And that would lighten it, and the market would be open to other people. And of course, they also, what they did was finish the underneath. See how bright that is? They put it on the lathe and took more brass off. And this base is connected to the top with handmade threads. Now this has a date on the bottom of this of 1674, but I don't think it's that old. So, and then here you have a wick trimmer. And what they did with this, as the wick burned, it did not disappear like cotton wicks do today. So if you had a 12-inch candle and it burned all the way down, you would still have a charred 12-inch wick. So they took this little piece here, which opened up kind of like scissors, and you would, as the flame dropped, you would clip off the top part of the wick just above the flame, and you would keep doing that. So let's see if I can put this down, take a better look at it. It's made by a blacksmith. It's all hand done. And then this tip here, see see if I can, the point. Now as the wick burned down, you blew it out. As today, you get a little bit of an ember, but that ember goes away pretty fast. But back in this day, the ember lasted a little longer and melted the wax, so that the wick was more embedded in the wax, or the animal fat, tallow, I'm just calling it wax. So you took the tip in the morning before you relit it, and you went over and you went to the candle, and you dug it out, dug the wick out, so that you could get at the wick and relight it. And that's how they did that. So there's a nice little, it's all made by a blacksmith. Now later on they began to put feet on these, and they also began to make them out of brass and copper and silver plate, and they began to mold them, make them with a mold. So the top part here became, I could show this part here became more square, up like this. It was easier to mold. So these older ones, you can tell have the round ones. And then it's always put in a tray because that hot ember would get caught in this little container here. And you just didn't want that to escape and start a fire, so you put it in these little trays. So, kind of nice to have. The trimmers here are not very expensive unless they're, you know, silver. And of course the nice, I really wish I could get that seam a little bit better. I guess not. Maybe if I put it down here. Let's see a little of it right there, just to the left of that line of light. And just to the right of the line of light there. And then later in the 1700s they did away with the seam because they could make a single mold. Hollow candlestick. Now I'll take this candle out. And once they hollowed these out, and they did away with these holes. And they put a rod through the hollow section of the candlestick with a little button on the bottom. And you push the button and that would eject the candle stub out. And then around 1800, right along the edge here, they put a little lever you could lift up. So this is like a transitional piece before they put the little button and rod in. So these are highly collectible because of the seam. They never reproduce the seam. Anybody trying to fake these, obviously brazing that is skill. And they brazed it with silver solder. So that's my 1700, maybe a little earlier, maybe a little later by 10 years. Candlestick. I think it's Louis XIV style. Along with its wick trimmer and tray from a little earlier. This is how they lit people's home back in the day. Thanks for watching.